Hi everyone, welcome back to Babylon Irons. You got Sloth and myself today, and we're going to talk about the link that seems not to go away, which is Evan Ferguson. It's been linked for a good couple of months now. Sloth talks of a loan deal. I'm not a massive fan of short-term loan deals, especially if it's a Premier League club. So I feel like we're developing their player and not really getting maybe as much benefit ourselves out of it. But before we kind of delve into all of that, what's your thoughts on this link? Is it something that you're positive about? Do you think this is maybe the right type of player for West Ham? And do you think this is one that's going to help us do a lot better for the rest of the season?
I think he is definitely the right type of player for West Ham. He's the sort of forward that we have lacked for a long time. The fact that it is not a loan to buy is something that I personally am not so bothered about, if not just because of the situation ourselves in at the moment with strikers. Fulkrug not settling, not even fit. You've also got Antonio's situation, and he's out of contract at the end of season. You've got Danny Ings, who is anonymous and also out of contract at the end of the season. I think because of that, it's kind of made this melting pot where I'm not that fussed if we get a striker in just for the short term who can help us push out of where we are at the moment and into the top half. If it's, getting Brighton an extra £20 million in the transfer fee that they get for Ferguson, yeah, it's frustrating. But if it means that we're pushing for a top half spot, I'm not really that fussed. And I know it's frustrating to see players come in on loan. We've been stung by one in particular who we're not going to mention, but if it has a similar style effect that he had to our season, then you look at it and you go, actually, you know what? It's worth every penny. And it then allows us to go into the summer window with a very clear picture and huge amounts of wage money, no worry of a transfer fee. And also, if we did have a clause to buy, if he did really well and picked up an injury, which heaven forbid, it's does seem to be the way that West Ham are going at the moment, though, particularly with our forwards. I just think it's a safeguard for us, and therefore I like the deal. I'm more than happy for it to be a normal sort of dry loan, and I think it's just one that we should try and get done as quickly as possible so we can have him ready for hopefully for the Villa Cup game if he's shouldn't be tied. More importantly, Fulham at home.
Yeah, that's the point. Anything that comes in, you want it to be quick because we've seen us procrastinate previously and we're in a dire straits at the moment. Constant talks of Fulkrug being unsettled, potentially wanting to leave. Although in the limited time he has played, he has a goal and an assist, and I think in 300 minutes, which, in all honesty, despite it being claimed to be an absolute flop, if you actually look at the minutes and what he's contributed in that time, arguably he's done pretty well. And we even called out how good he was against Palace in allowing us to essentially go on and win that game because of the way he occupied that defence. So in the short period he has played, arguably he's been effective. But overall, as a deal, it's been awful because he's been injured. Right?
Been there. I do think he had some positives, and I mean, injury so early has completely scuppered any chance of him settling or being seen as a success in some people's eyes, I think. But I do also worry that with the seemingly ever-changing transfer fee that was rumoured for him, we've heard it rumoured at £17 million, rumoured at £30 million. And I think it's, if I'm being honest, if I had a £15 million offer come in for him, I would take it and I would put that money elsewhere.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would do exactly the same.
Yeah, there's no doubting that he is a quality player, but it's like we said in the summer, he's not the only striker we should have signed. And, we were very positive about adding him, but that came with the caveat that we'd also get someone like Duran or, Samu in. And I think that people often mistake your positivity or hopefulness in one deal for you just saying, oh, this is going to be great. And it's like, well, it can be, but we haven't let it be.
No, exactly. Slightly digressed away from Ferguson, but it's a point about our striker situation that we're now looking arguably to a player who really struggled last year. If you look at statistically, it wasn't that great. Yes, he got 6 goals, which I think weirdly for strikers in the top 5 leagues is about bang average, which sounds incredible to say that someone had a bad season, yet we're on par with most strikers in Europe to get only 6 goals in the league. But he has struggled over the last 18 months. I would say hasn't seemed to have been as impressive as the player that first burst into that Brighton squad. But if we're looking at the positives, what is it about Evan Ferguson do you think is going to enable West Ham to maybe play a bit better, to have a bit more about them? What do you think about his play that is going to benefit West Ham should he come in?
Well, I think for one, his technical ability is very, very good. I think it's quite easy to look at the stats and say, oh, he's not scoring very much. He for a striker, that's what you want. But when you factor in his age and his ability, and also the fact that Brighton have had a merry-go-round of managers. There's no easy way to put it. Its best form was kind of under Potter, really. That's where he looked the sharpest because he had him for a settled amount of time. And I think when you're a young player coming through, it's very difficult to establish a place if you're not the big dog. And, you have someone like Maresca coming in, not Maresca, Marseille manager, who I've completely wiped from my mind.
Zebri
coming in, and when there is this sort of uncertainty about manager's future, then you're probably going to go with the safe picks up top. And I think who's a safer pair of hands than Danny Welbeck in that system where it's very reliant on someone dropping deep or linking up with play, and these are things he's very good at. I think his pace, his size and ability mean that he would work really, really well for us. But it's the overall look at his season. It doesn't quite paint the full picture.
Yeah, I think one of the important things with Ferguson is, he hasn't scored many. When he does tend to get a shot on goal, he's by and large fairly and pretty damn accurate with those. Obviously, so if he's getting a lot of chances and he's getting them largely on goal, he's then going to start converting chances. I do think again he's 6'3", 6'4" as well, so he's very big, imposing kind of figure, but he also has decent pace, like you say, technically. And I think that shows in when you look at one of the statistics that did really stand out from last year is his ability to get his shots cleanly on goal and get them on target. So if you can get a player like that and give him opportunities, great. I think that then probably is the other problem is he's not necessarily going to carve out opportunities on his own, which is maybe something that we've struggled with every striker. That's why Antonio worked, because he was a winger. He was used to getting the ball, running at players, chasing lost causes. So maybe that's why we've done better with kind of wingers converting into strikers than we have with actual centre forwards, because the centre forwards tend to thrive off of opportunities created for them as opposed to opportunities they create for themselves. Is that something that would concern you with the links of Ferguson, that would maybe fall into that trap of not getting a player who can maybe create a bit more for themselves, which again was why Arnautovic probably worked so well for us, because again, someone who can create on his own as opposed to needing others in and around them to maybe lay those opportunities on the plate.
I think it's something that, I just mentioned him dropping deep, particularly for the seasons where he's done well. And I think when you factor in that he could have someone like Kudus or Somerville either side of him, you know, hopefully when Bowen comes back as well, that is a massive game changer. If he can link them up and he has the pace to keep up with them, which we know he does, then that is a different prospect altogether. You know, I think that's one thing that Antonio did really well is he would happily chase those lost causes, link up the play. And Ferguson, for me, you know, I think he will chase them and press them. There's no way you work in a Brighton system without being able to do that. But I think the strongest part of his game is how he would interact with others, and you know, his ability to link up, create chances, and then get into good positions, which is something that, you know, you talked about his finishing. He was really good at space in the area where he could finish, and really good at just being able to change his direction quickly, find those pockets. And when you've got wingers with ballistic pace like Kudus and Somerville, then they allow you that bit of an extra opportunity to do that. And I think he would work really well for us, even if he is more sort of pressed creatively to try and do things himself. He's got the ability to do so.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? Whilst he may struggle to create them on his own by proxy of being such a figure, he is naturally going to draw players out of him when he does do things such as dropping deep and trying to create opportunities, that he is going to create spaces for the likes of Kudus to come off the right-hand side, who's now going to play in his best position probably for the best part of the next 2 months. Somerville is most likely going to also get a run over the next 2 months. So there is an opportunity for really quite a fresh front three, really, because it's a front three that have not really played, arguably either in the best position when we talk about Kudus, but in the other two, there are two players maybe wanting to prove a point that they are Premier League players. You know, Ferguson maybe not doing as well over the last 18 months. He probably feels that, you know, given the opportunity to go out and play, he can prove that he is arguably ready to be a top level leading centre forward. So it has the potential to give us a completely new, fresh approach to our front line. And obviously with the two players on either side with pace, obviously we do need Lopetegui then to put them in there, not trying to do anything funky. But I think there are positives with Ferguson. I do have some concerns, like I say, with maybe his ability, maybe he's requiring more to be kind of creative for him. I do feel that had he played more games, I think he would have scored against us with those two opportunities he had, because they were great opportunities. And the diving header was only marginally wide, really. So I do think that if we were to get him to a level of fitness, I do think he's going to score us goals. If we keep Fulcrook, again, I think that works for us really well, because then we've got two actual centre forwards, one who's maybe is going to be less mobile, but there's similar aspects in that you can hit them with kind of, you know, a long ball, and so I want to try and play off of them. But I do think Ferguson, because he has greater legs than Fulcrook, has the ability to also turn and go in behind as well, which I think is that thing that we always miss. If our wingers don't go in behind, which they don't always do enough of, we are so reliant on the centre forward. And if the centre forward wants to come deep, play neat, and so on, that's why we've always struggled. I think why we struggled with Allaire, that's why we struggled with Scamacca. There was a lack of going in behind, and a lack of having that pace in which to, you know, just create that separation, or enough separation to create over an opportunity for themselves or so on. So it's an interesting proposition. Maybe it's a short-term, short-sighted deal, but as you say, such is the state we're in, such is the moment we're in, that maybe a short-term solution is the right one going forward. But yeah, Evan Ferguson, probably going to be a decent deal for us. There are some positives in there, despite maybe lack of minutes over the last 18 months or so. I'm not going to lie, I'm not massively overjoyed, because I don't like loan deals. Just don't like dry loan deals. But as you say, if he gets us towards mid-table, it'll be a great signing. And yes, it would help out Brighton more than us in some longer term aspect. But ultimately, we need something for now to bring back some respectability for our season. And maybe he is the answer. But before we wrap up, Sloth, any last thoughts?
I just hope we can keep him injury free. Get him fit, keep him injury free, and if we can do that, I think we'll have a striker who will probably hit 6. Like, I think he will more than match what he did previously, especially with the pace around him. I think it's just a case of injury, and if we can do that with him, I think it will be positive.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, guys, look, we're fairly positive about this deal. We think it would be a decent one for us. Maybe we prefer a longer term deal, but you know, this is where we are at this current point. Money is going to be tight by the sounds of things, so loan deals is probably all we can hope for. But yeah, until the next time, we'll do the sign off. But again, if you like this, please do please do subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. That really helps us out. If you follow Hammer's Chat on Patreon, check us out on there as well. But yeah, everyone, thanks for watching, and until next time, Sloth, one last thing to do, and that is
Count on your eyes.